My name is Sharon Malone, and I am an independent Damsel Pro with Damsel in Defense. So our mission is to equip, empower, and educate people on how to protect themselves. As people with disabilities, we are 2 times more likely to be attacked than any other of our able-bodied counterparts, just because of the sheer nature that they feel like that we are a weaker link. And that is an absolutely false statement whatsoever. We are not a weaker link. We can be the warrior that we need to be in order to protect ourselves. There's not a situation where we can't get out of if we have the right tools and we have the right education. So I'll give you a little bit of background on myself and kind of why I do what I do. And feel free to ask questions. But I was involved in a motor vehicle accident. It'll be 8 years, October 24, 2012. I rolled over about 4 or 5 times, and unfortunately, I broke my spine in 2 places, my T5 and my T12. So I'm a T5 incomplete. My T5 wasn't completely severed, but my T12 was. So I do have some sensation, but below the level of injury, but no function. So I also tore my ACL. I broke my pelvis. So I did a whole lot of damage in that accident. And my children I was married at the time. I got divorced a year post-injury. So I became a single mom. And the things that, I was gone for 7 months during rehab. And, but the things that worried me the most during my rehab is, of course, how am I going to be a mom? How am I going to be that super mom that I once was pre-injury versus post-injury? And the things that consumed me were things like, if the house goes on fire, how am I supposed to get myself out or my children out? Or, if someone were to break into my house, how I can't just jump out of bed anymore and, protect them. So I needed to figure out ways. Same thing, I would go grocery shopping with them, and things like that, or going to stores or going to events. They were only 2, 4, and 7. They were in a prime, age, and that could be taken from me, and I can't run after them anymore, someone to be able to, protect them. So I felt very, very vulnerable. And so I started taking self-defense classes throughout the community. We do have programs, and there are programs that are offered through the cities. I've trained with the City of Phoenix, City of Mesa, and City of Chandler Police Department. They have.
What are they called?
It's called RAD, R.A.D class. They're on there. If you look at that RAD and then the city, that will populate up. They have a spring and a fall classes that are free.
Are they adapted?
They're it's very, they haven't, obviously, because of COVID, they haven't been able to do it virtually yet. But it's an in-person, it's about 20, usually they go about 20 participants. So it does fill up fast. So I would always look at their registration, their registration times, and be one of those first people that go in. They had to obviously modify my way of doing things because I can't kick, or just, they'll say kick in the shins or things like that, and things that I couldn't do. So I had to do things differently. I went target shooting with the Next Step Peer Mentoring Group, which is a great organization. They do kayaking, is, any recreational activities, as well as one of the activities is target shooting and self-preservation classes. Those are also free. So we go shooting every month. at Shooter's World. That was great to go to post-divorce. What was my that was my therapy, and so I had a great time. So I got my concealed weapons license, and then of course I did their self-preservation classes, which is learning jiu-jitsu moves. So I learned how to even take guns and knives away from people, and just from a wheelchair. And the instructor will go into a wheelchair and show you those maneuvers while in a wheelchair. So it's kind of nice that we're able to, figure out new ways to be able to. So it's always good to be able to kind of give yourself that broad range of learning techniques, because I learn something different from each person, and I learn something new all the time. And so that's what you want to do. You want to continuously do the things that you want to do, but also in a way that you're able to do them, because we're all different. I went into Damsel in Defense 3 years ago for the reason that, hey, I found some things that I can use without having to use my body. And it's a non-lethal version of taking someone down. I never want to have to use, my personal firearms. If I, don't have to. You'll know every police officer, every military personnel will tell you that's the last resort that they're wanting to do. Yes, they will use a stun gun that, they use, the tasers. They'll use pepper spray. They'll do other things to subdue someone in order to, before they have to resort to having to, to use a firearm in order to protect yourself. So that was one thing that was very drawn to me, and very personal. This is something, these tools are something that I can use without a lot of, effort, because at the time of an action, and every police officer will also tell you this, is, you have to repeat something about 1,000 times in order for you to have the muscle memory to remember at the time of action. So things can be taken away from you. So you really want to have tools that you can, number one, you're going to use, and two, you have the practice to remember to, on how to use it. And of course, not having to use, I'd rather, yes, I can, pull someone down with my body. I have built up these guns for a reason. We use them all the time to be able to wheel. So I've, built up that upper body strength than I'd ever had before. But if I can push a button to be able to take someone down, that's a much easier option, because when adrenaline's rushing, the first thing to go is our fine motor skills. So you see that on all the time on movies, which you're screaming at the person that says, get in your car, and they're having a hard time, getting that key into the door, even though nowadays we have those unlock and, lock key fobs. But you saw that in movies where you're like, oh my God, just open the door and get in there. It is. It's your mind. Those are true things that actually happen. So, but I want to give you some statistics. I hate to use it, to talk about it. It's one of the things I don't like about what we have to do, but it's a reality that we live in, and unfortunately, we have to be able to know those statistics, be aware of those statistics, and kind of keep that in the back of our mind, that we're, just because you may, live in a safe neighborhood or things like that, it does not make you any less of a target. So my goal, obviously, for today is to make sure that you learn things where you don't become, I'm going to make you like a hard target versus a soft target. So a soft target is someone that is an easy grab. Any perpetrator will tell you that the two things that don't want is they don't want to get hurt and they don't want to get caught. So those are the two things I'm going to obviously talk about. So yeah, one, do things that will not, will distract them. And so, they might get caught, and obviously they'll get hurt at the same time. These are, pain compliance tools that I'm going to show you that are very simple to be able to do. So the statistics are 1 in 5 women will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime. 1 in 3 will be victims of domestic violence. 70% of all sexual assaults happen under the age of 17. College-age women are 4 times more likely to be assaulted than any other age group. And again, as I mentioned, earlier, we are 2 times more likely to be, attacked versus our able-bodied counterparts. And, so really that would make me in that statistic 1 in 3 versus that 1 in 5. So that's what I don't want to see happen to any one of you. The ones that bothered me the most were obviously, again, my kids were 2, 4, and 7. They're now 10, 12, and 15. But you've heard it and you hear it on the news all the time of, human trafficking. And the average age of human trafficking right now is age 11. And that's sad. Our Arizona, Mills Mall, that's the #1 mall in America for human trafficking, which a lot of people don't know. And they're even using women to lure, other women or other children, thinking that, women are, more safer to, to be around. And they're luring them to the person that they're going to abduct. So they're finding new and, and horrible ways to, to take children. It's 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be assaulted in their lifetime. So that's what frightened me as well, and also motivated me to teach others about safety and self-defense. And really a lot of it. So, one of the major things to do, self-defense is 90% situational awareness and 10% self-defense. So I'm going to start with situational awareness because that is super important. So situational awareness is just being, paying attention to your surroundings. I'm constantly doing a 360 in my wheelchair at all times when I'm in a parking lot, or if I am in a store, especially with my kids. I'm constantly aware of when I'm getting out of my van, who I'm going to be, who I'm parked next to. Is there somebody that is, still inside their car, but with their motor running? I'm absolutely looking at all those different things in order to make sure that I know what's going on. They can see me. We've been taught all of our lifetime to, at least when I was growing up, to not, give eye contact. And just if they don't see me, then they won't, bother me. And that's absolutely false. You need to be looking at somebody straight in their eye because you're going to be able to possibly have to identify them. So I've taught my kids that situational awareness, the same thing, about looking at their surroundings. They've noticed people in the stores that may have been in the front of the store and now they might be in the same aisle as us, and they'll make sure, hey, Mom, did you notice that guy was at the front of the store and now he's here? One of your big things is to listen to your gut. That is probably one of the best things that you do. Don't ever think that you're paranoid or that it's any way it's just something that I'm making this up. It's, I'm thinking too much in my head. Your gut is really something that's actually one of the best things that, and instinctual things that have happened to us. We do have what's called the reticular activating system. It's in our frontal lobe, which is the ability to scan your surroundings and filter out the things that you need and the things that you don't need. And but it is a learned behavior. It isn't something that's instinctually going to, but as you go into your situational awareness and are, building on that and being able to practice that, your brain will start to remember the things that they feel that are potential dangers. So that's something that we always want to make sure that we're doing. The other thing is that, there's a lot of things that distract us. Of course, the number one thing that we have is, our cell phones. Those are probably a number one distractor of situational awareness. If we're looking at our phones, then we're not paying attention to our surroundings. And that text is absolutely not worth it to go outside of a store and be able to, answer that while you're walking out of a store, because, potential, perpetrator is obviously observing you and observing your behaviors before you even know it. So to not be on your phone is probably the best thing that you can do. Either have to answer that text while you're in your car, but make sure that you've locked your car as soon as you've gone out. Some of the things that you can, as part of awareness, make sure that you know even where you're at. If you go into a parking lot, do you know exactly where you parked your car? Or if you had, someone taking you, do you, stay inside the store until your Uber ride or the dial ride has arrived? They will notify you and then coming out, because if they see you, outside by yourself, they may, observe your behaviors and see are they an easy target. So you want to make sure, again, that you're not becoming that, easy target. So if you can, just make sure that you know your surroundings. You should know all your exits, know your elevators. Is somebody going into an elevator? It's really not obviously a good idea to be going into an elevator by yourself, unless, of course, you do have some protection with you. But obviously, looking them in the eyes and being able to fully describe, that person. I know my girls have schooled me sometimes that I feel like they're not paying attention to their surroundings. And I know I will ask them, did you see that guy that just passed us? I bet you didn't, because you're twirling around in that, the wheelchair sign as you got out of the car. And just say yes, and he had on a white shirt, black shorts, had a cap on and sunglasses, black, just head to toe. And I'm like, and I'm trying to play it cool, like, okay, my daughter didn't just school me there. But, I need her to do that. And the one thing is, we don't want to live in fear. We just want, to be able to be aware of our surroundings. That is the key. The other, obviously, distraction from, it being aware is, thinking that something's never going to happen to us. I live in a safe neighborhood. I live in a gated community. I know my neighbors. I only go out during the day. I don't go out at night. Most, crimes do happen during the day. We only hear about, a lot of the times when you see gunshots and stabbings, those are typically at night. But people that are breaking into your home, that happens during the day. Most of those things, kidnappings, those happen during the day. So those are false statements that you don't want to think. You should be always aware at all times. Even if you're with someone, it's great to have a buddy system. But being, with someone else does not necessarily mean that you're not going to be attacked by a perpetrator. So that's what I've been approached in Walmart. There are very nice people out there. who really do genuinely want to help us, but they're looking at that as an opportunity. So I've had that with my daughters that were with me shopping, that someone came and they offered to help, load of groceries. I'm like, oh no, we're good. I do this all the time, but appreciate the help. Thanks. And he still stood there and he was looking at my daughters, and I knew just looking from that I had, again, that gut feeling, and I did not feel comfortable. And so I told my youngest to get in the van, and I locked, put the ramp up, and I locked the door. And, my other one was loading the groceries in the back. So the trunk, was open. I put the shopping cart between, him and my daughter to make sure, because it could have been a tag team. You just don't know. Somebody could have been distracting me from one to get to the other. So those are always things that are in the, in the back of my mind. So obviously I continued. He asked me 6 times before I showed him my pepper spray, and I said, no, thank you, for the last and final time. Obviously that you've now, made me on high alert, and I had to show him my pepper spray, and yes, then that was it. And he said, have a nice day. And that was the end of that one. So, some of the things that you can look for in a perpetrator is watching their behavior, because they are going through an adrenaline rush, just like we do. If something scary happens to us, we have that adrenaline rush. They're having those behaviors, and that happens. Some of the things that they do happen a lot in adrenaline rush situations. It's almost, you can get through the lie detector on this, and police officers that teaching you that, but you actually blink a lot. It's an autonomic response. When you're lying, you blink a lot. But when you're having an adrenaline rush, the same thing happens. The pupils are then, starting to dilate. We have things that will start fidget. You can see someone that's fidgeting with their hands or playing with their hands, or someone that, is pacing back and forth, their movements. You can kind of tell that, okay, they may be a potential danger. And those are some of the things that you can look for to be able to get an indication of, I need to be now on high alert. Always go into a store. Don't be afraid to go into, back into the store and go to a customer service, and say, hey, if this guy has, been following me through the store, or I see him in the parking lot, it doesn't seem like he's out of place, doesn't seem to be there. And, that's their job, and to do, to help you. If you want assistance to get into your car to feel safe, do it. But like I said, you should always know all your exits if you're in a place, because those are the things that they're going to be looking at as well. So another thing is, I like to talk about, is we call it the OODA loop. And the OODA loop was actually developed by the U.S. Air Force to train fighter pilots on how to, to fight. And the OODA loop, so it's OODA. So that's orient, observe, orient, decide, and act. So a perpetrator has already gone through that cycle. So it's the cycle, and we want to get off the X. And so the observe, obviously, is someone has observed you. So all the perpetrator's gone through this cycle. They've observed you. They've oriented themselves to a particular place, meaning that they know those exits. They know that would be an easy place for you to get, as soon as you walk past that staircase, that's going to be a grab place where I can get you out of that, and take you. They're in that parking lot, observing people. So they know exactly where there's a, a lower chance of somebody seeing them or observing them. So they've obviously decided that they're going to approach you, and and they've decided to act on it by, which is, trying to take you away or try and take your belongings or try and take you or assault, etc. So they are going through that cycle. They have a plan in place. And so what you want to do is obviously being able to do those same steps and, already know, being on high alert to, you've already, observed your surroundings. So you know where you're at. Just like if we're going into Walmart, make sure if you went into the pharmacy side that you're not coming out on the food side, because then that means you've got to walk on the outside all the way to your parking space. Instead of go back into the store and go back to the to the pharmacy side. We've all done it. I've been guilty of, before I started doing all this, I couldn't remember what my kids were, to school that day. So if somebody were to ask me that question, if they were to be kidnapped, I wouldn't even be able to, before, I wouldn't have even been able to describe it. So observing, your surrounding, orient yourself, where you're at, like I said, in the parking lots, know where you've parked, know where things are going to be, know your streets, know where you're at, and orientate yourself with all the different areas. Where are the stairs? Where are the exits? Things like that. That's orientating yourself with your surroundings. Deciding, obviously, how you're going to, if someone were to approach you, you already decide. And then, of course, we're gonna act just like they are if they were to approach me. So the second thing I talk about, obviously, is about what we want to do is level the playing field. If you can distract a person from taking you, or making you that target, if you want to level the playing field, you want to be able to have things in your hands, and be ready in order to protect yourself. So my number one line of defense is stun gun. And that stun gun is, we have one of the best features about it is that, and I'll show you. So this is my stun gun. There's different varieties, and I'm going to show you each one because each one I feel has a kind of a different functionality to it. But it can be put around the wrist. This is our safety feature. So if for some reason someone were to take it from me, it's now disabled, so it will not work. So they cannot use it on me. Because again, I told you in the very beginning, I learned how to take guns and knives away from people. It's not that difficult. It's a simple here, and I can flick around just by using that. I'm going to break their finger and then, take the gun away. Boom, I can, now have their weapon. So we want to make sure that, again, it will be same thing with the knives. I can just, if they're close enough within hand reach, which they're gonna be, I can get a hold of them. I can pull them toward me. Now they're forward. And then I can just, twist their wrist. And then I can just take that knife away and boom, right there in the thighs, cut the, the artery here and in her thighs, and boom, I've just cut you off. I've cut your nerves where, you're not going to have, control over the muscles of your legs, and now muscles of your arm. And now you're distracted because all you're thinking about is now I've got, the pain. They've just used it against me. And, then they're boom. So I want to be able to have something that I can just take away and not be able to, for them, if they were, to be able to take it from me, then they can't use it against me. And then I've got my other lines of defense that are my second option. So it's a simple on, on and off switch. So right here, you'll see this on and off. We have the flashlight is the first one, which is an LED flashlight. You'll see how bright that is. I'm going to blind somebody in the eyes. I can just like a photograph. I can be able to look, blind them and then get out of my situation. If that is going to give a distraction. But this is also a good, good thing to have with you because it's going to just like, yeah, your phones have a flashlight. What does every police officer have? What does every security guard have? What does every military personnel have? They have a flashlight. And that's because they've got to be looking at all times. So you should be, if you're out walking, especially at night, you should have a flashlight and just, going around with it. Look in the bushes, look in your car, look underneath your car. Those are all good things, and it's showing a perpetrator that you're paying attention. So now you're not that easy grab. So just remember things like in the wild, you're not going to see a lioness that's going to, because of course it's the lioness, the women that actually have to go attack for food. They're not going to just start circling and using all their energy on something that's not going to be an easy, uneasy. They're looking for that weakest link to go after. So if they see someone that's actually paying attention and is going to be able to identify you and identify them, absolutely, they're not going to. They'll just move on to somebody else. But it does have, once that red indicator light is on, all I have to do is push one simple button. And that's, you can see my German Shepherds now probably already running to the bedroom. He was in the hallway. And now his little feet is, and he's got long nails. So he hates the sound of my stun gun. Hates it. It's a great thing for also for dog attacks. Or coyote attacks because of the sound wave, especially the dogs, the larger dogs that have the pointed ears, those sound waves, it goes through them. So they'll immediately stop. So if they're perpetrators coming at you and you felt like somebody was following you, absolutely go over the shoulder to just press that button. They're going to be like, oh crap, that's probably not somebody that I'm going to want to approach because now I know she's armed. So it's a great deterrent for somebody to, not wanting to approach you in the first place because they feel like, oh, okay. And you've just disrupted their plan. Anytime something happens, remember we talked about that earlier, they've made that decision. They've already thinking of, all the things and how their plan was supposed to be executed. But now I've just disrupted that plan. So they're going to retreat to think of, okay, either A, I got to figure out a new way, to approach them, or B, I just go find myself another target. But if they are stupid enough to approach me, then of course it's personal contact. I have to just simple press a button. So again, what we talked about with fine motor skills, going, I can still press a button. And all I have to do is press that button and touch, them, and it doesn't matter whether it's going through clothes or not. But the good places are here, obviously, if you can, because those nerves right here control the muscles, in the arms. So I'll be able to just, personal contact, send 18 milliamps worth of electricity through their body. And it's a very, painful experience for them. And I can still keep on doing it. What's nice is between stun guns versus tasers, is that tasers have the prongs that go into the skin and then send the electricity through their body. But that's a one cartridge, a one cartridge shot. So if you don't have the opportunity to be able to fire again. Some of them do have two cartridges, and police officers might have an extra cartridge, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you do. So I can stun someone as many times. I can press that button as many times as I need to. So if I have like a 300-pound guy versus a maybe 160-pound guy, I might have to do a little bit different strategy if he continues to get up and come at me. I would still be able to continue to do it. It's USB charged, and it has a battery indicator on here that tells you how much battery you have. So you should have always the 4 bars. I don't have to charge mine that often, even though I use it on demonstrations. But I still have that ability to use it if necessary. So, and then my second line of defense is my pepper sprays. So we have a whole bunch of different variety of pepper sprays. And it has at the very top here, it's an on-off switch. That's the on position, and I just have to spray. So on, off, and I tell people just, do that on, off, rotation. Like I said in the beginning, you need to do something 1,000 times in order for you to have the muscle memory to remember it at the time of action. Pressing that on and off switch to get yourself familiar with the on and off position is what you want to do. And then it's just a matter of hitting to spray. Now, what's nice about our pepper sprays is it's a direct spray. So it's not like mace, where mace can be mixed down back onto you. Pepper spray is a little bit different, and it has that direct stream. So it's going directly at your target. And I say Zorro, eyes, nose, mouth. So I think Zorro, eyes, nose, mouth, because this is someone down for 45 minutes at a minimum, because our director, we've obviously done it on him, and it took him 60 minutes to recover. And that was him with not only the water dunks, I mean, he had a pail of water, that he kept going, trying to flush the eyes, but milk, and anything that he could think of to be able to, the blindness, because when they open your eyes, it burns even worse. So they're closing their eyes because it feels better, just like as if we get something in our eyes on, anything, it burns, and we close our eyes because it stings so much. It's the same thing. It's got 18% oleoresin capsicum, which is that pepper spray. So that is the highest potency that's on the market. So it can be very, very painful, but the eyes are what you want to go for, because that will, it doesn't matter whether they're on drugs or on alcohol. Same, it's an autonomic response. If we're going to close our eyes, it's burning. So if they breathe it in, same thing. So the nose, if they breathe it in, whether that's through the nose or inhaling it through the mouth, of course, that's going to cause the restriction in the airways, the coughing, and so feeling that they can't breathe, and sometimes obviously the chest pain. So that's where you're going to be able to escape. And then 45 minutes, I can absolutely wheel away in 45 minutes, because it's not like anything else in a situation where we're going to have to take a little bit longer in order to get out of our situation. So 45 minutes, absolutely, I can get away in 45 minutes. So some of our pepper sprays have that same feature, that disable pin, where it can be pulled out, and then if they were to grab it, they wouldn't be able to use that pepper spray on you. Not all of them have that, but we do have that feature if that's something that you feel is a better option. Sometimes people with kids, they don't want to have pepper spray in their bag so that their kids can use it. You can have your disable pin out and then just push it back in when you feel that you've been threatened, and then you have that in. So maybe when you're walking out of the store, you put it in your pocket or put it around your wrist, and have your kids close. My kids are always beside me; they're never behind me, and they're never too far in front of me. Unless, obviously I've said something, that allows them to give them that green light to go. So that's my second line of defense. It has also a UV dye. All of our pepper sprays have a UV dye in it, so it can be detected under black light. So if some perpetrator said that wasn't me, I wasn't there, I don't know what you're talking about, they could actually, if they're taken into custody, they can put it under black light and be able to identify it because it's all over their face and in their body. It takes a couple of days to even wash off. So it's not like they could just go in the shower and just, because it goes into the pores. So it will stay on their skin. So be able to, eventually, yes, it will wear off. But you've got at least, a 2-day window where you'd be able to detect it under black light. It also has a glow tip. So this, tip glows so that if for some reason you were in the dark and you were trying to find that on-off switch, then you'd be able to know where it is and be able to find it quickly. Because again, when we're talking about we need to make sure that we have that, available. And then my last, resort is my striking tool. It's called a Coupadon. If any of you have taken the wheelchairs, self-defense class with Officer Chu, he is, a very big fan of Coupadons because they can be used. This has got a keychain, so you can keep it on your keys. It's got nice grooves here, so it fits perfectly with the fingers. So to be honest, I keep everything right here. I always have one here when I'm walking because it's an easy access, but I have one on my keys, as well. But if this is an easy access for me, if for some reason they, got to my keys, I have, one in here. So it is a striking tool and it's a self-defense tool. So one of the things I've always been taught, and through, several different classes, is that you can be choked out in about 6 seconds. That's all it really takes for someone to choke you and cut off your airways for you to be unconscious. Now, that's not a lot of time. So if they're going to grab you from here, and if you do that to yourself, you'll see this is cutting off my airway. If you tuck your chin to your chest, now you can hear I can speak because now my airways is not constricted, so I'm not going to lose consciousness. If I'm learned from military, was always trained to go, if someone's choking you, go to the side. So again, your airways are not restricted, so you're not going to pass out and be able to be taken. But if somebody were to come up from behind me, all I would need to do is break right here in the wrist. And right here is a nerve, but I mean, anywhere here, there's a lot of bones right here in our hands. Anywhere, but one, a nerve is right here on the wrist. You can just go boom right there. That's gonna at least break away the arm and you'd be able to strike. Your best striking places are here and here, so the two nerves. So if you put your fingers even to those places right here, you can feel that they're very sensitive. So imagine something forcefully coming at it. It's going to hurt, and they're going to be able to drop their arms to be able to get out of any kind of restraint from the back. It's great that, even though we may think it, and if someone were coming behind me, I've got my backpack behind my wheelchair, they're going to have to come over me or grab around me. It's not like a simple, grab that you see. So our wheelchairs can be an advantage because they're going to have to come at us in a different way. Or, if you have a power chair, that's even better because you've got 300 pounds worth that you can roll their butt over. Never mind, my kids hate when I roll over them, when in a manual chair. So it hurts when I'm, you get your foot from a wheelchair. That's not exactly pleasant. But I always laugh now because I'm at perfectly eye level where I'm going to strike you, like where you're not going to want to be struck. So you're really going to have a bad day because that's the first place that I'm going for. So inner thighs, are the two muscles that control the legs. And of course, again, these are the two that control, the arms. But anywhere in the thoracic area is a good spot because again, that's going to cause, especially for the lungs, it's going to cause that chest, and they're going to be taken off guard. Anywhere in the face can be potentially lethal. So I always would say right here in the temple, if you've ever put your finger right behind your ear, that's a very, very sensitive place. But boom, I can go right there if I had to, if I have access to the face. Now, of course, I'm going to have to go upper ways, but I could get them right here in the jugular area. Obviously, anywhere here, that's not going to be pleasant. But, eyes, anywhere, and like I said, anywhere in the face is potentially lethal. So you want to be obviously making sure you are fighting for your life here. And that's what you're going to have to explain, is that I was fighting for my life, in order to, defend yourself if something were to, to happen. So that's my, third line of defense is, is the striking tool. So those are the three, most things that I would highly recommend. I do have a universal glove, which is really nice for people with disabilities or joggers. Is that glove has all my protection, inside, where I'm not having to worry about it slipping out of my hand or having the grip strength, because sometimes we have that dexterity issues where, we have to be able to hold on to something. I can still have my striking tool. This one's black, but then I've also got my pepper spray here. And then we have a keychain version of our stun gun that also fits, perfectly in that glove. So whatever you choose to use, it's, available to you at the same time. And I can still, wheel at the same time. So I'm not sticking, sometimes I might have to stick that stun gun here, or, in between my legs, or I've got it, one underneath my wheelchair. But I have to be able to access it as quickly as possible because they're coming at you quickly. But you should, be doing that 360 so it's coming. So you're well equipped and well, prepared to be able to use that. So that's something that, we do offer as well. If any of you live alone, or if you have, you're going out, I have door stoppers. I always have a personal alarm. I got my kids' backpacks. This has a 120 decibel sound that's going to go off if they, someone were to approach. So, it sounds, quite loud. And it also has that LED flashlight, so you can do the same thing to blind them, but you've also just attracted attention to yourself. And that's what you want to do. You want to attract attention to anyone that's, is around you. Because like I said in the beginning, people don't want to get caught and they don't want to get hurt. This is going to be able to say, hey, I might potentially be caught. So I want to rethink my situation and, and retreat, and then think again, and maybe just think of someone else to, to approach. If you don't have, home protection, and you don't want to have something, you can have, a simple door. You can wedge this under any door or suction it to, any window. And once this, once the door opens, this lever comes in and the alarm goes off. So even on the high sensitivity, that's the high sensitivity or the low sensitivity button. So that's, quite loud. Once that door opens, then of course that's what's going to go off, and they're going to think you might have an alarm system through your home. And then and you don't have to have that expensive ADT or or, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do have the personal, but not everybody can afford to have an alarm system and pay that on a on a monthly basis. So I can travel with this. I definitely take this on vacation with me everywhere I go, or staying at someone else's house, or dorms, apartments, anything like that, that may not allow you to install. I can slip this under anywhere I want it to be, and then be able to, to have an alarm and a distraction that not only alerts me if I'm, because sometimes when I have to take my medication at night, absolutely, sometimes I could be, dead to the world. You can't, hurricane could be happening. I might not wake up. But an alarm, system might, is going to trigger me because of here. It's, that's okay. Somebody's approaching, and then I'll be able to have those reactions. So I have those tools in front of me in order to be there. So a whole different, array of, we've got, even for road trips, a 711 emergency tool, an emergency kit that has jumper cables and things like that. You name it, that for self-preservation. We probably have something very similar to help you with it. So I know we don't have too much more time but I would like to, open it up and ask, and if anybody has any questions or anything that we've covered that you would like a little bit more, explanation on, or anything like that.
I always carry pepper spray everywhere I go.
Yeah, that's a great, obviously.
And I live in the downtown Phoenix area, and there's a lot of people around, and I'm watching every one of them just to be on the lookout.
Yep. It's always a good idea to be on on alert. It cannot hurt you to know, who you're at, because you just never know. There's not anyone that in disguise, that, you think even as a female, it could, that they're not going to approach me or they're not going to attack me. It's very possible that, they have bad intentions. So it's a very good idea to have pepper spray.
As a person getting attacked, or even, say you were thinking that they were coming to attack you, say that they weren't, and that you used your pepper spray. Like, what are your rights as that person getting attacked? In terms of, if a person were to have a bad reaction to the pepper spray or something like that, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. You're going to be obviously telling an officer, I was in fear of my life. But the first thing you should be doing is, telling that person to just, stop, don't approach me. And if they still, this is a universal sign of, to say stop. No matter what language, this is stop. Don't approach me. I'm armed. And if they continue to approach, then you have, the right to defend yourself. But, you should have, your voice is, is no, and get back, stop, anything like that. I'm telling that person, you're giving them the opportunity to disengage and get away from you. But again, if they, continue to approach you, then, it's, game, I don't want to say game on, but, it's now I have the right. Now it's not something, that it eventually it's gonna wear off. They eat milk, they may need to go to the ER, but water and milk, it's gonna eventually, the side effects are going to, they're going to subside. They're not, these are not lethal products. Yes, there's always the opportunity of somebody, just like anything, that might have a huge reaction to something differently, but it's a non-lethal way of getting out of your situation.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. What about if somebody is legally blind or totally blind? How do you think they should be aware of your surroundings if they can't see?
So that you're already sprayed them, or?
No. So say you are someone who is legally blind or have impaired vision, and you're trying to protect yourself. Yeah. How can you protect yourself or be aware of your surroundings if you are unable to see? Right. What are things that you can do?
If you can't see at all, or if you're just legally blind.
Right. So it depends on, on your situation. Do you have, having somebody with you, or if you're getting those verbal cues, same thing. You're going to have that gut, that intuition. If they're grabbing you or in any way,
I
using.
think it's more about listening to your surroundings, or using your cane. So like if you're smelling something interesting or different that's close to you, or you hear footsteps that were behind you and they're getting faster and they're coming up behind you quicker, maybe using your cane to kind of go a 360 all the way around you to kind of look at your surroundings. I think it's just like using your other senses to be aware of something that's different than the norm.
Right.
Your higher sensitivity on, your other senses are taking over versus, your visual. And so, and that's key. That's gonna, tell you that I might need to go back into that, back into that store, back into, get to someplace safe, and, in order to get out of the situation instead of, having to, it's all about, like I said, 90%
Right.
situational awareness versus,
I also think that using devices that have any of those beepers, like the door device when your door gets opened, so that you can hear maybe like someone's coming in, or even like having that device that has that loud decibel sound for you to really make a fuss so that other people can get involved and see what's happening if you're unable to see.
Exactly.
I live in Northern California, and I'm wondering if you have any suggestions for kind of where I could find self-defense classes or anything like that that are accessible.
I would still go through this, if you can go through your county, police department.
Okay.
A lot of them, do have the self-defense classes available. I know there is, another pro but obviously California is so huge.
Right.
So, it's going to depend on, each city on whether they have those, those programs, but a lot of them do.
Okay.
You can even, see, like I said, I learned just using regular self-defense classes, but then they try to, I'm like, I can't do that particular. Can you show me a way that I could use half of that? Because I have my, upper body to be able to make that, make that happen.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I would definitely check it out.
All right, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Do we have any other questions? Awesome. So I wanted to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, and sharing Damsel in Defense and all the different products they have. Do you have a business card that I can possibly send out to everybody in this group?
Yep.
That you can just send me digitally, or just a picture of it and I can make it digital. Awesome. So I will send that out to everyone and I will post it on our Facebook. This will also be posted to our YouTube channel. If you just go to YouTube and look up Daring Adventures, you should be able to find our channel. All of our virtual socials are on there, as well as a bunch of different other recreation resources and videos on there as well. We are going to be having some cool, awesome virtual socials coming up. We have an ASL, American Sign Language virtual social coming up next week. It's quite interesting. I had my interpreter backed out and I gained about 12 of them, I think, overnight. I sent a call of American Sign Language interpreter volunteers, and everybody wanted to volunteer for the event. So I'm hoping to actually see like, to get a one-on-one of like what it's like to be an interpreter in different settings, phrases, how they got into it, and a bunch of different things. for American Sign Language. So that's going to be next week. And then we have the Terrain Hopper USA is coming on to talk about, it's a mobility device for people who have physical disabilities that use either manual wheelchairs or power wheelchairs or any type of actual mobility device. And it's kind of like an off-roading ATV mobility device. It's really cool. And then we're gonna have our first ever River Rampage. We're gonna talk about what it was like to be on the first ever River Rampage trip. Tim's actually our host. He's actually on this video call right now. For you, any of you guys that don't know, River Rampage is a 6-day whitewater rafting trip for youth with disabilities and at-risk youth on the San Juan River that we host typically every other year. And then we are going to have Axio Bionics come on. They are a wearable therapy for people who have spinal cord injuries or muscle spasm pain. They're going to be on talking about a bunch of their different wearable therapy products. A physical therapist is going to be on talking about that. And then we're going to have a ranger from Lake Pleasant come on and talk about the Discovery Center, and he's going to show videos of the tortoises out there and show basically all around the Discovery Center and all the animals that they have over there. So make sure that you start tuning in. We are going to be sending out these on our Facebook. They'll be on our website. And then we will also be sending them out through our newsletter. So if you have any other questions for me, you can ask them now. I'll be on for a little bit longer. But thank you guys so much for joining our virtual social, and I hope to see you guys all next Wednesday.
Thank you.
Nice.
Bye, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.